what does femininity mean to me? You know, when I was a young woman, femininity was something that I ran away from. It was something for me that meant being weak, being vulnerable, all these words that I had attached negativity to. And as a young woman, I felt the reasons why I was strong was because I wasn't feminine. When I really think of that first time where I felt that people felt like I was frail, I think of it in the context of playing sports. So when I was a kid, I played soccer, I played tennis, but when we moved to the suburbs, I decided I was going to play hockey. It's the first time I've ever really tried out for a sport, and I'm 13 and nervous, and so I finish and I see all the hockey dads, and they're kind of off in the corner. And I see them all talking and kind of looking at me and talking and looking at me, and finally they come over and they say, okay, we decided that you can be in the league as a girl, but in order for you to be in this league, you have to wear a baseball catcher's chest protector. Because the only thing I can always think of is, you know, they thought that my breasts would explode on contact, right? It's ridiculous, right? When you begin to think about it as an adult, it's kind of ridiculous to think about. But then I also do think, I think about it now as a woman, as an adult, and I realize that these fathers saw me, you know, being athletically successful, but knew as a woman that there was no way that I could be strong enough to play with their sons. One of the biggest ways in which I've been able to explore femininity has been through baking bread, which has been really bizarre for me. But it's been because femininity, that felt so feminine to me, being in the kitchen and baking feels very quintessentially feminine. And then I discovered that I loved it. And it was wonderful. And I kind of like making bread. And I had this moment, even now as I feel like I understand kind of complex thoughts in my head a little bit more. And even I had to kind of sit back and be like, why don't you want to do this? Like, you really like it. Why don't you want to do it? And I realized that I had so much wrapped up in that it meant I had to re-examine I run a nonprofit where we're thinking about femininity, and I had to take a moment to sit down and say, why am I running away from this thing that I really dig? Like, running for me is such a symbolic act for me, because it's solitary, and it's difficult, and it's pure. There's nothing, you don't need anything, right? It's just you. It's just you out there. And you're going to reach this point where you're tired, where you just want to stop. And there's no one behind you saying, keep running, right? It's just you. And you're going to have to look into yourself and say, like, do I want to move forward, or do I want to go home? And if I go home, no one's going to know. No one knows how far I ran, right? No one's going to judge me on that. I will know, though. And I think that's why I run, is because it very much feels connected to this project. If we want to get this accomplished, if we want to build this space for women, if we want to even build a space where women can examine what feminine looks to them, then we have to really embrace that. And we have to really push through that and persevere in these moments where we think we can't do anymore. And that's what I think about when I think about this nonprofit, is I feel strong sometimes as a woman, and I always feel stronger when I'm around other women. I have felt power in my body. I felt strong. I felt like I could get dirty and it was okay. I felt like I could build a stool in an afternoon if I wanted to. And I know that feeling of building this translates into other things. It allows me to go out and professionally be successful. It allows me to take leadership roles when I'm an activist in all these other ways and all these other parts of the world. So I think for us, when we thought about building Frailty Myths, we really believe that if women can have a space to feel strong and to have that moment of feeling that will just translate to so many different aspects of the world and change the world around us. It really started as a conversation that friends were having about just our lives. And then at a certain point we said, we should do something about this. What does it look like to start a nonprofit? What does it look like to try to open up a space for other women to examine these issues? Because not every other woman has the friendships and has the connection that we have, where we can lean on each other and really dive into that. And so for us, that feeling that I had when I was 13 of knowing that these men thought that I was weak, that I couldn't play with their sons, I know from being a woman that so many of us experience that in so many different places. And so our idea, like I said, was really, can we build a space where as women we can really look at this and look at it together and feel safe in doing that? Because that is a really vulnerable process to go through, right? building a step stool like this isn't just about building the stool. It's one step closer, right? It's a symbol, right? This can hold you. You built something that you can stand on, that will support your weight. You can get on top of this, and it's got you. And that is what we're trying to do with the nonprofit, right? That's destroying frailty. When I think about the word feminine, and I think about this process that I've gone through to find joy and love and happiness in this container of this word, I think about all the women that I missed, or all the women that I didn't support and love, right? In that process that they were going through. And I think to some extent the nonprofit on an individual level for me is a way to kind of atone for that. Like, you missed it, so let's build the biggest container that you can so that you can bring in as many women to have that moment with you. Anything that I go out and do in the world is feminine. If it means building this stool, or if it means building or baking a loaf of bread, again, I think of being feminine as being strong and being thoughtful, and again, anything that I do is feminine, and it feels so wonderful to reclaim that word and find myself running towards it as opposed to running away from it.